news Unpeeled. And today we're going to be talking about, well, AOS is going to be making 3D printers in Texas. So a while ago, SLM Solutions announced that it was going to make its NXG, its giant NXG metal powder bed fusion machine in the US. And AOS had previously already made some polymer machines in the US as well, and now has announced that it also is going to make 3D printers in the United States of America, in addition to making them in Germany, where it already does so. They also assemble the M290, which is kind of the standard, totally the standard in powder bed fusion metal printing. There's over 2,000 new systems sold. It's almost everyone's first system, essentially. And a lot of people just stick with it, qualify it, and use it for ages. And they're going to be making that machine starting in Q1 of 2025 in Pflugerville in Texas, where it already has ALM. It's a powders unit. It's already got its North American headquarters there, and already companies that it does a lot of business with are located there as well. So that's good news for the U.S. government, which is trying to stimulate people to make things in the United States of America and then be eligible to get contracts for the Defense Department, contracts for the U.S. government generally, through being either a friendly country or a friendly country that manufactures in the United States, or both. And so this is a very successful policy. As far as 3D printing is going, they are essentially saying, hey, there's a giant pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and that is lots and lots of orders from the Air Force Research Lab, from the U.S. government, from the Air Force, from the Army, all these guys, but you got to make the machines here. And that gives us the comfort we need to be able to buy them, even though you're not a U.S. company. So, hey, that's worked for Nikon right now with SLM Solutions, and it's also worked for AOS. So, very successful policy on their part. And that'll help the U.S. Do its whole nearshoring, supply chain resilience kind of thing as well. So very, very positive move for the United States of America. The next news is by APL. APL is a kind of contract manufacturer, contract development and manufacturing organization, CDMO. It's based in Sweden. It's also kind of like a quasi-government body, kind of like a compounding, keep drug costs low, kind of semi-government kind of body in Sweden as well. And it is partnering with CurifyLabs. And CurifyLabs is a Finnish startup that is making a personalized medicine 3D printer. And what they're going to be looking at is doing dosage forms, and they're going to be trying to put pills made by this printer on the market in 2025. The printer itself can do about 1,000 doses an hour. It can print inside the blister packs, which are really kind of handy. It's got ISO 13485, which means it's like a lab device you could use. Lab equipment, and this is a good kind of move forward in personalized medicine. So the big opportunity in personalized medicine is new drugs with new dosage forms, or release kinetics, or some kind of new property, right? So you have a stomach drug that releases in a certain part of the stomach, or a certain when a certain amount of digestive materials or acidity has been reached, then it releases its drug, or it releases as a polypill 5 drugs in a certain order. So it can do all sorts of things, but mainly where a lot of people are looking at is also like, if I weigh more than you do, I get more drug than you do. That kind of personalized type of approaches as well. And then also it can work in a kind of compounding pharmacy kind of a role, where a compounding pharmacy can make certain really specific drug cocktails, or weighted or personalized packages for an individual that needs an individual dose, for that one circumstance. And it looks like here you're getting kind of this large contract manufacturer, implementing this in that way. So I think it's very, very positive development. We're seeing FabRx move ahead in the US and Spain. We're seeing Craft Health move ahead in Singapore, and slowly but surely, this is kind of becoming more and more mature. We're seeing 3D printing for drug discovery being used a lot, 3D printing for drug processing in testing and all that kind of thing. And, some approved drugs as well coming in the pipeline as well from Triastic and people like that. And, this is a lively area all of a sudden. Like for years, this whole 3D printed personalized medicine thing was like, it's a cool idea, but you didn't actually see that many sales and that many implementations. And now people are moving ahead. So it's a very, very nice area to be involved with at the moment. And yeah, it's a very positive thing for 3D printing industry generally. The next thing is some of the largest 3D printed parts that have ever been, essentially. Oak Ridge National Labs is sticking very, very close to home on this one. So Oak Ridge was a part of the kind of the America's Nuclear Weapons Establishment. One of the other big parts of this was the TVA, Tennessee River Valley Authority, and all these other kind of components. And they were kind of getting enough hydroelectric power to power all the machines and to create all the elements and all the materials that were needed to make the atom bomb. Like a lot of people, of course, think of kind of the Manhattan Project as being for a few elite scientists in the desert, but no, it was thousands and thousands of no, actually tens of thousands of engineers and workers and people all across the United States of America doing all sorts of stuff simultaneously to make the plutonium, to make the metals, to make all sorts of stuff available. And so it's really kind of sticking to this hydroelectric power thing, which is a big part of what the Department of Energy does, and a big part historically for Oak Ridge. What they're going to do now is do something actually kind of really amazing and kind of maybe semi-unexpected. They're going to be using, but also actually kind of super logical, right? So it's like kind of like, yes, we expected someone to do this eventually. Yes, we know there's a lot of things ongoing with this. But the size of these components and the fact that they're using WHAM to do it is, well, that's, I think, quite surprising, actually, I think. So what they're trying to do is they're going to try to get together and use swarm robotic manufacturing. So they're going to use up to 6 robots or one part working simultaneously. So one robot will be doing WHAM, wire arc additive manufacturing. Other robot will be scanning the workpiece to see if everything's going okay. Another robot will be milling it down and grinding it down to get the surface right. Now, that culmination is going to mean that you're going to get a part made in a much quicker way than you would normally do. What they're going to be doing, well, this is kind of analogous to what we're seeing using DED and wire DED and these kind of things, processes rather than WHAM, in turbine blister repair. This is an industrialized cell-based manufacturing solution where you have either via tool changing system or by several robots working on the same part or several different machines working on the same part. You have in that production cell, you've got a turbine blade that goes in that's damaged. It gets scanned. The material gets added to it through a DED or EBAM process is also possible. And then it gets milled down, right? And that whole process is kind of automated in a production cell. And essentially what they're doing is instead of that, they're using WHAM. WHAM is kind of like, I don't know, I kind of call it like metal cheese with a spray and pray process because it does lay down an awful lot of material in a short amount of time. But the quality of that print, the accuracy and all that is much to be desired. So often the problem with WHAM is that it's wonderfully cheap and it looks great initially, but if you want to get like kind of like semi-functional parts out of this, the post-processing work you're going to do is going to negate any cost advantage you would get from using WHAM over DED or another process, cold spray process, something that might be a little bit slower or something, or a little bit more expensive. So generally, WHAM is kind of been losing out to a ton of different deals lately, to EBAM-based processes, so using an E-beam, to wire-based DED processes. It's kind of losing out. So this is kind of another, kind of a thing to say, hey, Oak Ridge thinks that WHAM is alive and kicking. And what they've been doing is they're taking the swarm robotics and a cell approach and applying it to insanely big parts. You can see the guy sitting next to the part here. This is what they want to print. Now, this is not, as far as we know, the 3D printed component. We don't think it is actually, but this is what they want to recreate ultimately. So who is we? It's the TVA. It's Huntington Ingalls Newport News Shipbuilding. This is a major contractor for a lot of U.S. submarines and really large surface vessels. The Electric Power Research Institute, something called Open Mind Technologies, ARC Specialties, and Voigt, which is like a maker of hydroelectric components. And what we're seeing here is a pretty big darn hydroelectric component made out of 410 stainless steel, and they're called Francis runners. This project is part of the Rapid Research Universal Near Net Shape Fabrication Strategies for Expedited Runner Systems, or Rapid Runners with all caps. This has gotten over $15 million in funding. And the problem is, the reason why they're getting this funding is because it takes an awful lot of time to make these things. The lead time is about 18 months. So that means you have got this giant hydroelectric dam somewhere. And it's got to wait a year and a half or something for this giant Francis runner or this runner system to be replaced. It's called a Francis runner for some reason. And it's basically a giant reel, very integral, very important part of the whole hydroelectric thing. So what are they doing now? They're going to print the first prototype. They're going to then print a second prototype, which is 5 feet in diameter, right? That is going to be installed in the Tennessee Valley Authority's OC dam in Parksville. And that's a live hydroelectric dam that produces 24 megawatts of electricity. The third Francis runner is going to be produced, and hopefully, if that all works, it's going to be used at the Wilson Dam, which produces over 600 megawatts of electricity. Now, that turbine is going to be 15 feet in diameter, 8 feet tall, and weigh more than 46 tons. So that is a huge part. That's one of the biggest parts ever made, and one of the biggest functional parts ever made. If you don't count, usually stuff that's big that's being 3D printed is like formwork or it's bridges, stuff like this. But this is we're talking this is an engineering component, although for a hydroelectric industry. And you could easily see how, if this does work, there could be a ton of stuff for energy processes, for wind turbines, for the nuclear industry, for oil and gas, for energy infrastructure. There's a ton of stuff that could work. And this, if it does work, and if it does work, accurately enough, and if they, the post-processing time, means that we can get this thing done in a reasonable amount of time, I think this is an absolutely wonderful process. You can either see this as a, just in time kind of, or a much faster manufacturing process, or you can see it as a fire and forget thing, right? If the robots are cheap enough, you just pop these things somewhere next to an aircraft boneyard in the middle of the desert, and they just gradually make these things. As long as it's unassisted by humans, and as long as they could take a really long time, it doesn't really matter. The part itself is going to be super cheap, right? Because the material is going to be super cheap, and the only cost is really the cost of these robot arms doing this in concert. So eventually, this could be quite inexpensive as well. So you can think of this as kind of a more casual manufacturing process, casual long-term manufacturing of really large steel parts. Anyway, this is a great big thing for 3D printing. It's a hugely important thing for 3D printing to look at this, and so it's good that you guys get to know about it now. If you've missed out on this. Anyway, my name was Joris Peels. This is another edition of 3D Printing News Unpeeled. I hope you enjoy your day, and I hope you found this useful to you.